Happy Saturday, everybody. Josh here with On the Wrong Lead. Another episode of The Get Out, the last episode for the summer of The Get Out. I'm joined, as always, by Mr. Matt Carlson. Matt, happy Labor Day weekend. How are you doing, my friend?
Doing pretty good. It's we're trying to hold on to the last bit of summer here. You know, kids are back in school. Wife started school this week. She has kids back next week. So it's a busy time. Feels like kind of one of the life get outs, I guess, if you will, right? That season change. It's always just that busy time of year. So not a lot of time for horse racing, but we're prepping for next week anyway. So good to have a little bit of a lull.
Yeah, I had mentioned on one of the other streams that all my volleyball leagues are wrapping up. So I play sand volleyball. I play indoor volleyball too, but this year I got involved in a couple more sand volleyball leagues. So I was playing like 4 nights a week at on some weeks, and so those are wrapping up, and that's kind of like, all right, the summer's kind of ending. Although it's kind of funny because here in Chicago, at least, like we'll get pretty hot weather like well into September, so we still got a couple of weeks here, I think, of stuff. But yeah, we have a wedding we're going to this weekend. We're going to be driving up to the hotel today around 2ish. Recording this on Saturday morning, and then we got a rehearsal dinner, wedding tomorrow, and then Monday we're making plans to go to to go to the winery to get just be glad that this is over. I mean, my wife's been...
Yeah, I heard on Drinking Champagne that she's in need of some some decompression, if you will, after those events. I don't miss the stress of my own wedding, but I definitely don't miss the stress of other people's weddings either. I'm glad we haven't had one in a while, but
yeah, I think we're gonna be she's gonna be glad that this is over, and then she was just like today. I was asking her, I was like, "Oh, what are you gonna do?" She's like, "Oh, I'm just gonna have my coffee and just enjoy my last moments of peace." So she's downstairs making coffee right now, but yeah. So quick golf update. Obviously, I went out and I played another round. Improved my score by 5 strokes, so we're moving in the right direction. We'll see. We'll see how that ends up going. I think in the next couple weeks, I'm going to try and get a lesson book just to kind of have someone take a look again at what I got going on, because it's been a while. And honestly, I like most of it, like it was like 80% all right. I think if we can narrow down to 20%, we got a shot at really improving. So I was happy, but yeah, not much else going on over here. So why don't we go ahead and get into Del Mar? Normally we cover the late pick 3 on Sunday, but I figured, hey, let's get the real Get Out, because we're gonna have to get out on Monday, I'm sure, here. So we got the late pick 3 on Monday's card here, and no morning lines out yet, but we're gonna start with a starter allowance turf race going a mile here, and I don't know, Matt. I'll let you go first here. Where did you kind of land here?
Yeah, I assumed the favorite in this race would be Smart Code, who I think is the 11. Kind of had that shared race with a few in here last time. I don't know. I kind of wanted to get around this one just because I thought it kind of got that easy first quarter last out, right? I mean, you see it on time form too. My stuff has it pretty similar, where kind of got away with murder up front and just was able to coast around. This horse could continue to improve off layoff, kind of second up. But I don't know. I thought, just given the draw and given kind of where this horse was, I kind of wanted to fade it. And I think the horse that showed best to me in that last shared race was the 9, One of These Days, who I think will be my lone A. Look, I don't know what Victor Garcia is feeding these horses off a claim, but this horse jumped massively first up for Victor Garcia, and he's been doing this, right? Like, that race kind of came out of nowhere. And by all accounts, this horse probably should have won that race, jumping up from, claim for 25 and immediately runs into 50K claimer. and looks like should have won if you hadn't gotten blocked kind of on the rail. Um, it- and I think too, right? I mean, moving back into allowance races now finds a race. He's been hot at Del Mar, right? 4 for 10, I think, on the meet. I don't see an excuse for this horse to, not continue to kind of improve, get Umberto up. Um, you know, eh, by all accounts, right? Like this horse will probably show really well. I have no idea what price you get on this horse, right? Like this horse, I think went off 20 to 1 last out. Don't quote me on that. Or
26 to 1.
26 to 1, right? So I don't think you get 26 to 1 on this horse, but I do think maybe you got a little bit of a price. And even if that comes down to, 5 to 1 or something like that, to me, that was the value in here. So that'll kind of be my lone A. Just thinking, hey, whatever feed Victor Garcia's got in his barn right now is pretty good. My lone B in here will be the 4 Russell's Hustle for the same, slop that you heard me kind of pitch on this Get Out podcast for the past 4 weeks or 5 weeks or however long we've been doing this. And that I'm like, okay, Peter Miller, Juan Hernandez can improve second off a layoff, etc. Lost a bit of ground last race, has been losing ground. To get in my HK mood a little bit early here, this horse has kind of lost a draw lottery the past 4 or 5 races. If you look all the way back, right, has broken, 8 post out of 8, 10 posts, 7 posts, etc. So really hasn't been, kind of inside for any race the past year, right? And finally gets a decent draw here. So, hey, maybe there's something there, right? I think the reason that this is a B to me is if I think this horse had the ability, Peter Miller probably would have had it ready to fire first up. He typically doesn't improve much second up off the layoff. But, that said, every horse is different. Maybe he'll, kind of show something a little bit better here. So I'll use the 4 as a B, but I think most of my money will be through the 9 and just trying to get around smart code.
Yeah, I also like the 9. The 9 is I have 2 A's in this race, and maybe I'm taking the coward's way out, but I agree with you there on the 9. I mean, everything you said. The trip looked a little tough. Kind of closed in on what was a real slow first fraction and was able to make up a ton of ground there. I mean, this is a horse that was at 1.8 and a half lengths off, and uh, looked like maybe could have been a winner in that race, and was able to make up all that ground. So I like the 9 in this race. I am going to use the 11 smart code. This is a horse you kind of put a line through that the Del Mar race, before the long layoff, and this is a horse that fired well fresh, off that long layoff. Is coming back here. And it just seems to have at least on time form have the fastest figures here, in this group. So I do expect them to run back to that figure, that last figure, and I think that puts him right, right in the mix. Now, time form's got this coded as a fast pace. Um, I just didn't really see very many other horses that were like true like leaders. Like, I mean, the 10 got the lead last time out, but I think he was just kind of given the lead. If you look at his other previous races, like he sat just off. Maybe he's kind of fought for the lead. I just think the 11's faster than him. They have the 5 on the front, and last time he did kind of set blazing fractions there. But once again, that was, I don't know. I felt like that was kind of an anomaly, but maybe we are going to get some fast pace. But I do have one B if this does come apart. I actually like the 2 smooth salute to kind of be able to pick up the pieces late. Last time out, finished third in the race with Russell's Hustle in there, and kind of came in and closed. But I'm kind of looking, and his last win was 4 back at Santa Anita when that race kind of fell apart, and he was able to kind of pick up the pieces and win, and actually beat the 9 one of these days in that race when there was a bit of a fast pace. So I'm thinking if there is a kind of a pace collapse, I think maybe the 2 is one that'll be able to kind of pick up the pieces. So I just went with the 9 and the 11 as A's and the 2 as my lone B. And we'll move on here to race 10. We have a 5.5 furlong stakes race for 2-year-old California breds. What a time to be alive. I'm probably eating chalk here again as well. The two Mohaven with Hector Barrios and John Tadler, coming in here, improved greatly that second time out. And, when it comes to 2-year-old sprints, I mean, I'm taking the horses that are near the front. I mean, and the two looks to be like one of your probably the fastest horse early. I mean, maybe the three has got some speed and could go, but he seemed to kind of get off to a slower start last time out. So not really sure what's gonna go there, but the only other horse I have written down as a B is the 5, My Cat. Um, and honestly, this is more of a hey, they thought enough of this horse to try him in the Sorrento. Um, he finished fourth, so he at least beat two horses, or she beat two horses, and now it's dropping down to Calbred from an open stakes race there, and this is a horse that does have speed, and I think maybe could be a little faster than the two. I'm not really sure, but I'm just going to take the two speed horses in this race and the 2 and the 5, and hope that that gets me through here. Where did you land?
Yeah, I'll preface all this by saying if there's any type of race that I really hate, it's these 2-year-old stakes races, and especially these 2-year-old filly stakes races, because you just never know, right? Like this thing could go massively hot up front and just absolutely fall apart. Could be someone who, just is way better and gets a lone lead and wires them all the way around. I don't know. Like nothing would surprise me in here because I tend to get burnt in these races. Like I don't know, and they tend to be to usually pay pretty well just because you have horses that could move forward. You don't, you really don't know what's going to happen for any of these. I think on paper, my favorite horse in here was the 8, and I'll probably make that my lone A. And that's probably stupid, especially just given the jockey moves, right? Like, obviously Barrios ends up on Mohaven instead of Liberation. But I mean, just watch the trip last out, right? Like that race had, shouldn't even count for this horse because realistically, kind of breaks middle pack. Apparently gets checked. I don't know. I didn't watch the head on to see how bad that was, but like visibly stumbles and then just tries to run the whole entire race like 4 wide. I mean, it wasn't on Hector's highlight reel, but there's really nothing else he could have done. So tries to rush up 4 wide and actually is like making up ground on a pretty decent field in there, running 4 wide the whole way around. Just loses way too much ground to come back in a 5 furlong race to expect any sort of win in that, though. But I thought the fight was pretty good out of that horse, and I thought just on paper, right, like that first race was probably better than anything else in this field. So I'm willing to go back there, and I think maybe in my mind, the jockey move, everyone will see that and be off this horse. So to me, I'd get more value out of this horse not following Hector. Than I would just straight up like playing Mohaven and saying, yeah, follow the jock and, toss Liberation. So I'll use Liberation as my lone A in here. Just hoping that this horse has just a ton of ability and, Frisu can carry her home. I will probably eat the chalk and use the defensive B. I don't know if you have your buttons set up. If you have one button set up, just start setting the siren off for the. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, at least we got that one set up. So I will use Mohaven as a B. I'll also use the 3. What's a good name as a B? Um, it, you know, what's a good name is obviously, I think the last race is excusable because I think that race was actually against the boys in here, and so kind of was stepping into more open company, and gets back against Phillies here. So, look, it took a shot last out in a very salty field, ran really well. On my figs has improved every time out. It is Peter Miller and it's Juan again. Like I'll just keep going back to the well until it actually works because Lord knows it hasn't. The way I've been capping these things, but I do think again could present some value in here. Just given looks like a horse who has been progressing. So most of my money will be through Liberation of the 8. I will use the 2 and the 3 as Bs in here and just hope that we don't get bombed out by some horse that hasn't shown anything previously. Because if there's any race where you could take an all or excuse an all, it's probably this one.
All right, race 11 here. We got a 1 mile turf maiden claimer, and yeah, where did you kind of land here?
I was three wide, and I've been terrible in these get out races too. But there were three horses I think that at least piqued my interest, or I had some excuses for. First, I like the five Empire's Classic. Obviously off a big layoff. Trader does pretty well off big layoffs. I think 4 for 13 coming off of like 250 days plus in the past couple of years. And I think this horse's best races really have been at Del Mar, right? Like if you look at that two back race in November, the thing that stood out to me was that wasn't really a fast pace and nobody else was really making up ground in there. And that horse still kind of fought on for third, finished within a couple lengths at the end. To me, that race was kind of impressive given kind of the setup that that horse got. And I think with any other pace in here and, a decent run kind of off that long layoff could improve and could kind of be right in it, right? Kamara's obviously going to have to work a trip because I don't think Del Mar typically sets up for these, late bombing closers, but maybe, right? I think if you ever had an excuse or if you ever had a thought that a horse wanted this course for, a race like this where it's just a bunch of maidens who hate winning, at least that stood out a little bit to me. So I thought the five was pretty good in here. I almost made it a lone A, but, I don't know. It's hard to lone A in a race like this. Two other horses that I did think presented some value in here. I like the six, both sides of bad. I think this horse actually does finally qualify for a ship and win. Please check me on all of this. Like, I think that finally I've found one that actually meets the criteria. I had to actually go back and run stats for horses coming from Wyoming Downs. So if anyone wants to know, in the past 2 or 3 years, they're like 1 for 5. I don't think that's statistically significant either way, but I ran it. So thank you, formulator at home. Um, he gets Hector up, right? Who knows, right? I don't know. This horse has never showed anything, but no one else in this race has shown much of anything either. So I think you get a massive price. And if I can get a massive price with a decent jock up and trainer who does pretty well first up, a trainer who does pretty well going dirt to turf, stretching out, etc., maybe, right? Um, why not? There's got to be some reason that this horse is running here and not still running at Wyoming Downs. So we'll try it. And then the last horse I thought was decent was the 12 Oakley Smile. And I think this is just one of those like confluence of circumstances plays to me, right? Like if you look at the stats for this, like Francisco Rodriguez, pretty good running, going sprinter route, pretty good putting blinkers on horses. I think sprinter route, he's like 3 for his last 11 for a, 265 ROI, blinkers on 3 for 12, 25%, 242. Dropping in class, he's like 1 for 2, right? So, given everything, right, it kind of reads like that. Hey, throw a bunch of stuff at the wall, but also I think one of those horses that could just get lost in the shuffle, right? And Maldonado has a win or a couple wins since he had 0 last time I mentioned his name. Maybe, right? I think again, just one of those horses that hopefully can show something in here from a bunch of horses that really have never showed anything. So I'll be 3 wide to close out. Hopefully, taking some buckshot to this race will hit something. So it'll be 5, 6, 12, kind of just flat across in here.
Yeah, I did not land on any of those horses.
Yeah,
Uh,
that makes sense.
I think my top pick is probably going to be the 8 Phoenix Flying. I was originally kind of scared off by the long layoff, but John Sadler is actually pretty good with these horses coming off the long layoff. Obviously, this is a horse that's improved the 2 starts and beat Empire's Classic last time they met. So I like this horse here coming off the layoff. Has been working really, really well. If you look at that work tab, you see 48 and 3, minute and 3, and then 59 and 4 last time out here. So I think he's going to be kind of coming in here raring to go. So I like the 8 Phoenix Flying. And then I also like the 7 Brother. And maybe I'm getting into shot tin mode already. But JJ's definitely had choice in this race, and he landed on this one. And hoping for some improvement second time out for Doug O'Neill and JJ in this race. This is another horse that worked really well before that last race. Came out, and I thought, I mean, he massively improved on time form going from dirt to turf. And he came right back and he fired another, near bullet there, going 47 and 4. So, out of the gate. So I think that this is definitely going to be a horse that's going to improve. And I think if you look at time form, this is a horse that improves by 7 to 10 points, and he's right in there. So I like the 7 brother, and I like the 8 Phoenix Flying, and that's all I'm going to use in this race. Did you have a bonus bet here on this card?
I went to race 5. Why I did that, I don't know, but I
Hmm.
couldn't find anything else that I liked, and I probably went to the chalk in here. I think, I don't know. I'm sick of getting my teeth kicked in, not taking chalk in some of these races, but I went to the
Hmm.
2 Zimba Warrior. You know, eh, he's a big standout on my figures. And I think the thing that appeals to me is has had the excuses in the races he really hasn't run well in. Like if you look at the past couple, I think there's a couple races in there that he's just lost a ton of ground, right? Like last out, he was caught 5 wide, 4 wide. And I have he lost 24 feet in that race. The time before that, ran well in a race that a couple runners have come back to win in, and kind of has a standout fig to me. Race before that, lost 10 feet. Race before that, lost 19 feet of ground. So I mean, arguably, I think has never run a poor race, even in the classes kind of above this, and now he's dropping down into here. So look, to me, this looks like one that's kind of slotted to win in here. I don't know whether that's, hey, we don't feel like shipping it to another track, or hoping he gets claimed, but I thought this one kind of stood out to me, and just probably the horse in here to me that had the most ability. So that'll kind of be my win bet on the early part of this card. I didn't see much in the races before that, but yeah, that'll be where I'll go. Kind of for my best bet is this 2 Zimba Warrior.
Yeah, I briefly looked at this card, and I mean, I landed at I was like, oh well, Full Serrano's running back, and I'm like, well, Full Serrano's going to be like 2 to 5 in that
Yep.
race,
Yeah, if not shorter.
Um,
Yeah. I was like, oh, he
yeah,
stands out. Great.
so I was just like, I was trying to find something here, and I just I don't know, I didn't really see like much that I like really really liked. Um, so I don't know, I couldn't get anywhere. I mean, I just kept on looking and looking, and I was like, I don't know, I was like, I don't know, maybe you could make a case for like a horse like the 6 Tahini, for George Papadromo. You're not a horse that hasn't run on dirt in a while, but just might end up in a spot where he's able to get on the front end there. And if not, I think maybe even like a horse like Udi, second time here for Bob Baffert. But I mean, I don't know. Like now I'm betting the other Bob. Like I don't know, it doesn't sound exciting. So
Tread
I
lightly,
kind of
save your money for Hong Kong, right? Like that's discretion is
exactly.
the better part of valor is the way this should go. So
Exactly. So, um, yeah, but hopefully everyone has a happy Labor Day. Stay safe out there. Fire up the grill that one last time, and enjoy the end of summer.
great,
Um,
great betting day, right? College football's going on, Kentucky Down's going on, a lot of horse racing, a lot of stuff. There's F1 tomorrow. There's Hong Kong next week.
uh,
Get excited. Get excited.
yeah, and that's gonna do it for us here on the Get Out. Obviously, check us out on ontherwronglead.com, at wrong_lead on Twitter. I'm at Cherry Drank. Matt is at Slow and Steadied. Let's root for the under in the Michigan game because I got a lot of it.
Take
Have
that
a good
arrow
one,
of the
guys.
ball. See you.